So now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Fiona Gologwi. Fiona is 17 years old, and she was born and raised in the Sierra foothills of California. She has loved art and nature since she was a little girl, and in 2016, she discovered the work of John Muir Laws in the world of nature journaling, which combined her passion for art and nature. Fiona has since created more than 2,000 journal pages. She is also an avid birder and especially enjoys birdsong and birding by ear. She is a 5-time recipient of the Central Valley Birding Club Youth Scholarship, which enabled her to attend summer teen birding camps in hotspots all around the US. She has also spent many hours volunteering with bird banding, bird counts, and nest box monitoring, which is all great experience for her, getting field research as well as seeing birds up close. And she has given numerous talks on birding and nature journaling. And last year, she actually wrote an article that was published in Birding Magazine. So on top of all of that, Fiona is multi-talented. She loves to craft, act, sing, compose music, write stories, and speak German. So Fiona, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight and to share your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored to be here. I'm really excited. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much to Serena and SFBBO. I'm really excited. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. So I have been a serious birder since 2015, but my spark bird was technically a chicken. This is a hummingbird I drew for my mom when I was 5. But people will talk about, the bird that got them into birding, and they call it their spark bird. So for me, I got chickens when I was 6 years old. And I loved them, and I pet them, and I named them. So those are kind of my kind of gateway into birding. I looked at their feathers. I loved watching them. I noticed they had like a little feather flap over their ear, which I thought was really cool. So I loved my chickens. And then from there, I found an old field guide that belonged to my dad that was Birds of North America. So then from there, I started getting into wild birds and started identifying the birds in my backyard and things like that. So that was really fun. So then in 2015, I went on my first bird walk, my first official bird walk at a place called Trailer Ranch with a man named Bill Covington. And Bill is super, super sweet. He's really funny. He's really knowledgeable. And so he was kind of my first birding mentor. He inspired me to start my life list. So on that day, January 1st, 2015, I started my life list. And so he would teach me as opposed to tell me. So at the time, I was really enthusiastic. And so I would just call out all the birds I was seeing, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So he would, instead of saying like, no, that's wrong, he would say, well, look again. And what else do you notice about it? And he would sort of ask me to look again and again. And then I would be like, oh, wait, the color of the bill. Okay. And then I'd switch my answer. But that was just a cool way that he had of teaching, of instead of saying like, no, that's this bird, he would encourage me to look again and figure it out, which was really fun. So another thing that's at this preserve are bird boxes that he monitors. They're like bluebird boxes for nests and things. So he invited me to come and check bird boxes on this property with him. So that was super fun. I got to go in and open the boxes, and he taught me how to like count the eggs and take down the data. He has a little clipboard and things. So that was really fun to get to see baby birds and nests and learn about that from him. And then when we got back to the parking lot, he had a bird box that he built for me in the back of his car. So he came to our house and helped us to install this box. And the next spring, I had a family of oak titmice that built a nest in the box, and there were 8 babies, and they were so adorable. So that was really, really fun. And I got to take all the data down, and I was so excited. Anyway, that was really, really fun. So something else that I really love to do other than birding is music. I sing, I play cello, silver flute, recorder. I love doing all things music. And so something that I really loved about birds was bird songs and bird calls. So my mom looked into a camp for bird identification by song. And there was this camp at this place called the San Francisco State University Sierra Nevada Field Campus. And so my mom signed me up for this class. I was 12 years old, and I was so excited. I got a scholarship from the Central Valley Bird Club to go, and it was an adult class, but children could attend if an adult came with them. So my mom was my plus one, and so we went up to this camp, and it was so much fun. I learned so much. We'd get up super, super early, like before dawn, and go out to these beautiful hotspots, and we'd be there for the dawn chorus. And it was so much fun. I got a little MP3 player and put some bird songs on it, and was listening to those. And basically all the things that I know about bird songs, like the basis of everything that I know about bird songs, came from this class. It was so much fun. We went to so many cool places. So because of the way the field campus is set up, there's multiple classes going on at one time. So there was also a watercolor class going on, and the teacher of that was this woman named Andy Thrams. So all the participants have dinner together. So I met her there, and she was like, "Hey, have you heard about this guy, John Muir Laws? He's this amazing naturalist, and he's an artist. I think you would really love to be in his class. He teaches a class here later in the summer." So my mom went down and asked the director of the field campus, "Hey, could we get into John Muir Laws' class?" And the director was like, "Are you kidding? It's been full for months. Like, those fill up immediately. You can't get into his classes." And so my mom decided to come home and buy me his books for my birthday, which was next month. He's written many, many books. And so I got all these books, and it introduced me to this idea of nature journaling, which I got really excited about. So I got my first nature journal, and I was going to go for a camping trip with my mom for my birthday. And so my family all got in the car, and we were going to drive past this field campus on the way to where we were going to camp. And so we stopped by the field campus to say hi to some friends, and my mom knocked on the director's cabin door, and John Muir Laws answered the door. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're John Muir Laws. This is my daughter, Fiona. I just got her all of your books for her birthday. She just got her first nature journal. She's so excited." And so John Muir Laws, who goes by Jack, he looked at me and he goes, "Well, why don't I give you a 1-hour drawing class for your birthday?" And I was like, "Okay." So we went up to the dining hall and we sat down at a table, and he started teaching me some tricks and drawing with me. And 1 hour went by, 2 hours went by, 3 hours went by, 4 hours went by. We had so much fun. And it was starting to be dusk, and we hadn't even picked out a place to camp. So Jack was like, "Well, why don't you guys just stay here? Just pitch your tent here at the field campus, and where do you want to go tomorrow?" So that started a 5-year-long friendship with Jack. And he is such a master teacher. He has taught nature and science education for 35 years. He's the author of The Laws Guide to Nature Drawing and Journaling, The Laws Guide to Drawing Birds, and also The Laws Field Guide to the Sierra Nevada. These are wonderful books. Highly recommend them. And he really introduced me to this idea of nature journaling and taking my art kit out into nature and combining birds and art together, which was really, really fun. And something he likes to say is that attention is an act of love. So he defines love as sustained, compassionate attention. And so I have been really blessed to receive that kind of attention from him through nature journaling. And he spends time with me birding too. Like we go around and run around and go birding together too. It's not all teaching. We have so much fun together. And he doesn't talk down to me. Like, he treats me like a friend, which is really, really wonderful. That he's not kind of on a pedestal. He treats me like a friend. And so he also reviews my journals, which is really, really fun. And he'll point out when there's something he likes or if I've improved. He loves to point that kind of thing out, where he'll be like, "Oh, this time you drew this bird. Oh my gosh, it's so much better. Go back and look at that other journal page that you did of that bird a few months ago. Look at them together. Look at how far you've come." He loves to show me that, which is really cool to call attention to progress. And he likes to talk about pencil miles. So basically, the more miles you get out of your pencil, the more you draw, the better you get. So he likes to talk about that, which is very true, I found. And he makes learning so fun. He's just as excited about everything as I am. Like, there's no bird that's a trash bird. Everything's exciting. So that's also really fun to run around nature with him. So I've also had the privilege to teach with him. So I've taught to homeschool groups with him. I've taught at educators forums. I've taught at the nature journaling conferences, the Wild Wonder nature journaling conferences with him, which was really, really fun. And also most recently at the San Francisco Exploratorium, I taught a class with him, which was really, really fun. So I've gotten to teach alongside him, which has been a wonderful experience. So he has also generously given me many, many tools and blank journals and pens and pencils and hours of his time and reference books. He is such an amazing friend. So probably the biggest mentoring project that I worked on him with, that I worked with him on, was my 8th grade project, which the school that I go to, every 8th grade class, each student chooses something they want to pursue and a mentor they want to work on it with. So people chose all sorts of things. There was someone in my class who worked on like car mechanics or like model airplanes or photography, stuff like that. So I decided I wanted to work on bird illustration. And what I was going to do, I was going to draw the 40 most common birds in my area. So Jack agreed to be my mentor for this project. And so we had so much fun. I would go down to his house and basically spend the whole day there. We'd put out snacks and we'd just draw birds all day and just work all day. And it was so much fun. He had so many cool things to teach me. He taught me about mirror perspective, which is basically like if you're looking at what you've drawn and you're like, something's not quite right, you can hold it up to a mirror and it flips the perspective, which is really cool. So then you can see where you went wrong and you're like, oh, the wing's too big, and then you fix it and you're like, okay, so that's a cool way to flip the perspective on it. To hold it up to the mirror. He also taught me about using colored pencil. For most of these, I was using watercolor. And so once the watercolor had dried, I would go over it like for this American Crow. I went over it with colored pencil. So all the highlights here are in colored pencil for this particular one. So also, he had me focus a lot on detail. So I got a lot better at wings in this project. I'm still not that great at wings, but I'm much better than I was. And so this is kind of a funny little story of just like the level of detail that he was having me do. So like for this drawing of a white-breasted nuthatch, I had him on the phone. I had sent him a picture of my drawing of this. And he was like, there is one thing you need to change about this, and that is that the toenails are too short. You need to make the toenails longer. And I was like, okay. So then I looked back at my reference material. I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely right. Like the toenails were way too short. I had made them just what I thought normal toenails for birds should look like, but the white-breasted nuthatches have these giant toenails. Anyway, so just like the level of detail, like you need to make the toenails longer. Anyway, so that was kind of fun. So I definitely got so much better with all these pencil miles in the space of such a short amount of time. I got a lot better. And something that I learned is that if the eye is wrong, the bird is wrong. So if you can get the eye alive, the whole bird benefits from it. There's a story that I like to think about that's from one of my favorite books called Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. And it's this image, there's this artist who's painted a dragon for a magistrate, I believe. And he's painted it and it looks incredibly realistic, but he hasn't given it an eye. And so he gives it to the magistrate and he's like, here's your painting of the dragon that you commissioned. The magistrate's like, it doesn't have an eye. And the artist is like, yes. So then the magistrate is like, well, I want to give it an eye. So the magistrate takes a brush and dots the eye of the dragon, and the whole dragon comes to life and leaps off the canvas and becomes this real dragon. Anyway, it's a really cool image. And I've definitely seen that to be true in my drawings. My birds don't fly off the page, but when you dot the eye, the whole rest of the bird feels more alive, which is really, really cool. So also here's just some other paintings from that project. So this is one that I redid. Of course, as I look at these now, even the second drafts of them, there's at least 10 things I would change. I definitely have improved since this. This was almost 3 years ago now. So the first one, the one on the left, had very little detail. The colors were kind of bland. I didn't really like how the highlights turned out. The eye was kind of dead. I didn't really like how it looked, so I redid it. And I kind of tried to get the iridescence a little more. The colors were a little brighter. So that one improved significantly. This is one, I got the gist of this one really fast. I don't know why. But this particular cedar waxwing, I had so much fun with this, painting that like airbrushed kind of look that it has from that like caramel color to the yellow. That was really, really fun to paint. And then this is two American robins. They're drawn from the same photo. The first one was at the beginning of this project, and the second one on the right was at the end of this project. So 16 weeks later. So this is how much I've improved over the course of that time. So this is drawn from the same photograph, and I would like to go back to that photograph. I probably still have it somewhere, and draw one now to have three. It'd be kind of cool. So another thing that Jack has introduced me to is nature journaling, which is basically taking your art kit out into nature and drawing whatever you see and writing questions about it and observations, and drawing maps and measuring things. Anyway, it's really, really fun. And one of my favorite parts of birding has become drawing the birds that I see. So it makes birding so much more fun. So if I journal, I notice more, and the more I notice, the more fun it gets. So this was a bald eagle that I happened to spot through a spotting scope in Point Reyes. It was really far on the opposite shore. And I was watching this bald eagle. It was kind of on this pile of brush. And so I was like, well, I'll draw it because it's a bald eagle and I like bald eagles. So I started drawing the bald eagle, and then it took off, and I was watching it flying, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then it flew down into the water and it caught something. And then it moved over to one of the mud flats and was eating. And I was so excited. I had sat with it for probably 15 minutes, and it was eating something, and then it flew away. And I thought, well, maybe it's done eating. And then it perched on this like old kind of log thing, and it tipped back its head, and it made this little noise, this little like high noise. And I was like, why is it calling? So I was kind of watching to see what like why it was doing that. And I was looking down and drawing, and my mom was looking through the scope, and she was like, oh, there's a vulture that came down to what it was eating. And so then I looked in the scope. I'm like, Mom, that's not a vulture. That's a juvenile bald eagle. So I think what happened is that the adult bald eagle was calling the juvenile, and then the juvenile came in to eat whatever the adult had left, which was super, super cool. So if I hadn't stayed with this bird, I wouldn't have gotten to see all this behavioral stuff, which was super, super fun. So that was kind of a cool little excursion with the bald eagle there. So it also helps me get my brain on paper. So when I write what I'm thinking, I can connect my thoughts and see connections between what I'm thinking about. And my brain is also free to think of more things. So if I have one question and I have to remember that question, then I can't think of other questions. But if I write it down, I can let my brain move on to more things. So like, for instance, here, I was at a beach, and I was interested. There were all these different birds. There were owls in the cypress trees at the trailhead. There was a harrier. There was an American pipit down at the beach, which was really cool. So I wanted to show where these different birds were. And so I drew a little map to kind of show what I was thinking about and how that was working. So that was kind of a fun little page at the beach there. So it also helps me build stronger memories. So research shows that when you draw and write, you remember more. So I remember so much more when I journal. I've definitely found that to be true. When I go back and look at a page, I can remember right where I was. I'm like, oh yes, we went down that trail and there was this bird. I can picture it, which is really, really cool. So it really helps my memory. So like, for instance, this was a great horned owl that I was watching, and I watched it cough up a pellet, and then I took that pellet home and let it dry, and then dissected it and looked at what was in it, which was really, really cool. And I can remember exactly where we were on the road. I can remember how the owl looked. Anyway, it's really, really cool. So one of my favorite parts about nature journaling is questions. I love to ask questions. So it's one of my favorite parts of journaling. So I kind of connect my thoughts in these sort of question chains. So I'll usually start with an observation, like for this dead pigeon guillemot that I found at the beach. I was saying like, this looks very recent. It looks like it died very recently. So then I was asking, well, how long ago did it die? I was wondering like a few days ago or like last night. And then I was wondering like, is it just because the salt water preserved it? Like, is that why it looks recent? Has it been floating in the ocean for a while? Like, what's going on? So I was wondering about that. So I kind of connect my questions together to kind of form these question chains. So I don't answer all my questions right now. And if you ask questions and you feel the need to answer all of them, you won't ask as many. And just by asking questions, you'll get to places you wouldn't have otherwise. And often the most interesting questions are at the end of those question chains. And you don't have to answer all the questions in the middle to get to that one really interesting question that you might go look up or something like that. So the process in and of itself is really good. So something I was wondering about this particular pigeon guillemot was I had been drawing a while ago from a black guillemot study skin, and I noticed that it had yellow feet. And I know that both black guillemots and pigeon guillemots have red feet, like very, very bright red feet. So I asked someone who was with me with the study skins, I was like, hey, why are its feet yellow? And they told me that their feet fade after they die. And I was like, whoa, that's so weird. So then I was looking at this pigeon guillemot, and I was wondering if it's possible to see how long ago it died by the color of its feet, because its feet were kind of this sort of like rusty orange color. So I was wondering if there was like some way to tell like how long it had died by looking at the color of its feet. So I was kind of wondering about that on this particular page. That was kind of fun. So Jack has been one of the most significant mentors in my life, but there have definitely been others. So Bill Covington, my first birding mentor, so he gave me 22 bird boxes, and I installed them around in my neighborhood. So I have my own bird box route now. This will be the third year that I've monitored that I've been monitoring it. I'll start in earnest in probably like March or something like that. So I live in a wildland urban interface, so there's a lot of open space, and neighbors agreed to let me put boxes in their yards. So I have this little route of 22 bird boxes, which is really, really fun. So I've monitored those and got to see many, many different birds build in those boxes. So that was really, really fun, and a gift from Bill Covington. So someone else who's a mentor of mine, is a woman named Allison Nelson. So she's actually volunteered for SFBBO as a bird bander, and she basically taught me everything I know about bird banding. So she is the director of the Gold Country Avian Studies, and she started a banding program in the Sierra foothills. And so I've been fortunate enough to volunteer at that banding station and get to learn about how to extract birds out of nets, how to band them, how to age them, how to look at feather wear, and like she's taught me basically everything I know about that, which has been really, really fun. And so her safety is her top priority. She's taught me how to be super, super safe. So I'm really grateful to her for that. It's been really, really fun. And it's such a great opportunity to learn at this banding station and to get to see these birds up so close. Another banding mentor of mine is a man named David Rosen. So he's worked as an environmental educator, a teacher, a park ranger, and a naturalist for 40 years. So he is amazing. And he also volunteers at this bird banding station. And he's just always so calm, and he's really great at getting birds out of nets. There was a baby song sparrow at one of the nets that we have. And I was out there on a net run by myself, and it was in the side of the net where all the strings are. So it can get really, really tangled. And so I started working on it, and pretty soon I realized this is very far out of my league. So I called in with a walkie-talkie back to the banding station, and I was like, hey, can someone come help me? So David came out there, and he was super calm and super collected. And he talked me through what he was doing, which was super, super helpful. He didn't just take the bird from me and get it out of the net and move on. He would talk me through it. He was like, okay, so do you see how its wing is sort of here? Yeah. And he would blow on the feathers, and like, he's like, all right, I'm going to take this off with a toothpick. And like, he was super, super careful. And he talked me through what he was doing, which was really, really fun. And that has definitely helped me with other difficult extractions out of the nets. So this song sparrow was just fine. We got it back to the banding station, released it. So yeah, that was a really cool experience to learn about how to get birds out of nets. So another mentor of mine is a man named David Wimpheimer, and he's a professional guide and naturalist in the Point Reyes area, and he leads bird walks. And so I've gone on some bird walks with him, and he also teaches instead of tells. It's kind of fun. He'll like set up a spotting scope. Like if we come up to a mud flat full of shorebirds, he'll set up a spotting scope, and he'll be like, "All right, so what do you see?" And he'll step away from the scope, and I'll walk in, and I'll be like, "Okay, well, there's some western sandpipers, and there's some dunlin," and he'll be like, "Yep, what else?" So he's like asking me to identify the birds as opposed to just telling me what they all are. So he's giving me the opportunity to learn, which is really, really wonderful. He also teaches instead of tells me. So another mentor of mine is a man named Manfred Kusch. So he's a retired professor of comparative literature at UC Davis. He's given me many books on birds, and he's also let me bird at his property, which is in Davis near Putah Creek. And he has a beautiful piece of property. He has palm trees with orioles nesting in them. He has hummingbirds. Basically, everything he planted on his property is to attract birds. So he has wonderful, wonderful birds. And I've been to his property many times to go birding, and that's been really, really fun. So in terms of like the musician birder that I am, I have another mentor whose name is Rudy Darling, who is a musician as well. And he is an amazing birder by ear. He is the president of the Sierra Foothills Audubon Society, and I first met him doing Christmas bird counts in the Grass Valley area. So there was a section that we worked with him on for 2 years, and then the next year, which was two years ago, one of the volunteers for another section fell through, and he had to leave this section, and so he had my mom and I bird this section by ourselves, which was really cool that he entrusted us with this section. So he is an amazing birder by ear. He's super quiet. He's super kind. He taught me a lot of like check calls, like little calls that I hear all the time, but I didn't know what they were, like little contact calls between sparrows and things. So a lot of smaller things he taught me, which is really, really cool. So yeah, he has taught me so much about bird calls. And I've had a lot of fun going on Christmas bird counts with him. We wake up at 4 a.m. and we bird all day. It's really, really fun. So another mentor of mine, so to speak, is the Central Valley Bird Club in general. So they have given me scholarships that have supported me to go to teen birding camps. So I've been to Camp Chiricahua in the Chiricahua Mountains in Southeast Arizona. I've been to Hog Island in Maine. I've been to Washington State in the Whidbey Island, Puget Sound kind of area, which is really, really fun. So these camps are so much fun. They're in the summertime, and it's basically bonding time with other teens who are just as excited about birds as I am, which is really, really fun. So it's basically 10 straight days birding with people. We're driving around in the vans, we're running around on the trails. In Washington State, we were on boats, we went for pelagic trips. It was really, really fun. So this is me at Hog Island on Eastern Egg Rock, which was really cool. They allowed the teen bird camp to go onto their research rock. They have research that's being conducted for puffins and terns there. So that was really, really cool. You get dive bombed by terns the whole time, which is also kind of fun. So the Central Valley Bird Club has also connected me with other mentors. So Cliff Hawley, who's shown here with me and another man named Jerry Langham. So he runs the scholarship program, and he's invited me to speak at the Central Valley Bird Symposium dinner about my experiences at bird camps and things like that. So he's really wonderful. So someone that the Central Valley Bird Club connected me with is this man, Jerry Langham, who's also here. He's a retired professor of biological sciences from CSU Sacramento. And he is a professional bird guide for Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours. He is a wonderful birder. And he has a bird walk that's near his house that he's taken me on before. He also has bird boxes that he's installed, which is really, really cool. He's on the American River. So he has wood duck boxes as well. So I've gotten to see the wood duck boxes, which is something that I don't see where I am, which was really, really fun. So he's taken me for walks there before. He also connected me with someone who gave me a scope, which was really, really nice. He's written letters of recommendation for me. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. So someone else that the Central Valley Bird Club connected me with is a man named John Dunn. So he's the co-author of the 6th and 7th editions of National Geographic Society's Field Guide to the Birds of North America. And he's also the president of Western Field Ornithologists, and a professional guide for wings. So he is an amazing birder. And I met him at an all-day trip at the Central Valley Bird Symposium. And I went as a student, and I got to be in his car, which was really, really fun. And so we pulled up to one of the spots, and we had just gotten out of the car, and we were kind of looking around, and there was a brush pile, and I noticed a little bird had jumped to the top of it. And I was like, oh, there's a common yellowthroat on this little pile of brush. And he turns around and he goes, oh, that's the first common yellowthroat I have for this county. And so I found him a common yellowthroat, and we've been friends ever since. So that was kind of fun. And so he is super, super knowledgeable. He knows all these crazy cool things about birds, and he'll just start telling stories about different birds as we're seeing them. Like if we see a merlin, he'll be like, oh, there's all these different color variations and geographical variations with these birds, and they're so beautiful. And like, he knows all of these cool things about birds. It's so interesting to hear him talk. And he also taught me a lot about Latin names, which is also really fun. I hadn't really gotten into the world of Latin names, so he kind of got me into that world, which is really fun. And he also invited me to the Western Field Ornithologist Youth Group, which is also really fun, another chance to connect with other young birders. And so he also, I've been in email contact with him, and he told me, because I was saying how I wish I had seen more owls. I haven't seen that many owls. And he was like, well, I just recently saw a short-eared owl that was kind of near your house. Do you want me to give you directions? And I was like, yes, please. So he told me the directions basically to the middle of nowhere. And he's like, if you go there right at sunset and you look across the road, there's this meadow. And on that meadow, there's short-eared owls hunting like right at dusk. And I was like, okay. So I went there, and there, sure enough, at sunset, there were short-eared owls. So that was really, really wonderful. This is my page that I drew of those short-eared owls at sunset. So that was really, really wonderful, that he showed me that place. So another mentor that the Central Valley Bird Club connected me with is a woman named Jennifer Ackerman. So she's the New York Times bestselling author of The Genius of Birds, and then her most recent book, The Bird Way. And so she was also on that trip with John Dunn. So I got to go birding with her and John Dunn on that trip, which was really, really fun. And so she was also the keynote speaker at the symposium, which was also really wonderful to hear her talk. So she is an amazing birder. She knows so much about bird behavior, which is also just fascinating to me. It's so fun to listen to her tell stories about bird behavior and stuff. So that was really, really fun. And also she reviewed my article for Birding Magazine that I published, which was really, really nice. She let me send her a draft of that, and she agreed to proofread it and give me some feedback, which was really, really wonderful. She gave me such wonderful feedback. That was amazing. So I'm sharing these stories of mentoring to show you and illustrate that you can also make a difference. I'm so thankful to my mentors. They have really, really changed my life and furthered my career as a birder. And you might not think you have time or that you know enough to be a mentor, but even just an encouraging word is really, really, really means a lot to young birders. We really, really love just being validated and seen. And if you're kind of intimidated by the whole idea of mentoring, don't think of it as mentoring. Think of it as getting a new friend who's really, really excited to learn what you know, and really, really excited to listen to you. And in a recent article for the Western Field Ornithologist newsletter, John Dunn wrote, quote, I would urge that everyone do what they can to mentor these young birders, give them sound advice, but also treat them with the kindness and respect they deserve. Their future, our future, depends on it. So thank you so much for coming this evening. And I would love to answer any questions if you have them.
Fiona, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. And I am so inspired by you. So I do want to also note that you've talked a lot about mentors, and it is actually National Mentoring Month.
I know, isn't that so cool? I just found that out today. I was like, wow, it's so fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have, it sounds like several probably of your mentors online with us. And I know that John Muir Laws is here. And I'll mention that John Dunn is here, and he said that the pigeon guillemot that you drew, it has a dark cap, so it's probably a juvenile, and maybe its feet are duller because of that as well. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Anne or Ender asks, owl pellets are kind of like hairballs. Is that right? Do you want to describe them?
Yeah, kind of. They're basically like bones and hair kind of compressed into this kind of little pellet thing. So basically, when they're dry, you can kind of pick them apart and look at the bones inside of them, which is really, really cool. So yeah, they kind of are like a hairball, with just kind of like gray hair that's usually from like mice or things like that.
Let's see. Our next question is from Karen, who asks, what are your plans going forward career-wise?
I would love to do something in bird research. I'm fascinated by like bird behavior and stuff like that. I would love to go do research projects and bird banding and stuff like that. I think that would be really fun. I'm not entirely sure yet, but definitely something related to birds or bird biology or something like that.
Yeah, I could see you doing so many different things with all these connections you've made and these skills you've gained. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds for you. And let's see, let's check in again really quickly with Jack and see if he is able to unmute himself and wants to say a few words.
Yes. Hey there. I just wanted to say to folks, from the perspective of, being called a mentor, you might think like something like that is a lot of work. I want to tell you how the friendship and being your nature journal buddy, Fiona, is such a great joy in my life. It doesn't feel like work when we go out and play. It's just part of it's being out there with another observer, and you help me take my practice to the next highest level. You have helped for me unpack aspects of being curious and asking questions, and I'm really grateful to you. So it's also just I just want to say that I was so moved to hear your words. As teachers, we very seldom get to hear about the impact what we do, and we think, some point down the line, maybe this is going to make some sorts of connections. Being working with you and hearing the impact of this work really motivates me to up my game and to be a better mentor to you and to others. So thank you for so generously putting this out into the world. I really, it says so much about your heart and your spirit and your kindness. You're an amazing observer, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack, for sharing. That was really kind words for Fiona, and of course, very well deserved. Fiona, great job. And in the meanwhile, I will also share some resources to everybody in a follow-up email that I will send tomorrow with some more resources about mentoring, if that's something that you maybe want to start thinking about doing, and to help inspire young people just like Fiona. And actually, we did have one question come in about whether you've considered selling some of your beautiful artwork or donating to NGOs, as a fundraiser or something like that.
Yes, I sell my cards. I have little greeting cards with my art on them that I sell for my college fund. So yes, I have sold my art before. If you go to my website, which is Fiona Songbird, you can see my art there. I sell my cards there.
Nice. Yes, I will definitely send a link to your website to everybody. That's fionasongbird.com. And I think I saw that we might have had some raised hands, so I might actually go ahead and have this person unmute themselves if they'd like to ask a question.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to Fiona for being my mentor. And I think that that's something that you have done so brilliantly without even people asking you to be the mentor. So you have all those skills, and I think that others will benefit from that. Maybe you might have a little tour with people and show them how other mentors, how it's done, even whether the person learning is 6 or 69 like me. So anyway, thank you, Fiona.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for those extremely kind words. And actually, one person wants to know if you would ever lead a workshop. And I think you've mentioned that you have helped co-lead workshops, right?
Yes. I've taught workshops with Jack before. Yes.
Great. I'm sure we'll see much more of that in the future, and that, you know, soon you'll be teaching all kinds of different things to people and being a mentor yourself to so many people. So great. Well, thank you again so much. And I hope that everybody has a great rest of their night, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you so much for having me.